Alrighty, so let's find that vent so we can deal with this little sister now that we've done all the gatherers. Like I was saying, in most levels there are going to be several of them throughout your environment, so you're not obligated to use one or the other. But in this level they pretty much make it to where you're being guided towards one in particular, and that's just so they can deliberately sort of guide you through the level and show you some areas that are not as obvious. And being that this, it's kind of ironic that this area is, you know, based off of what it is, because it is very linear for a Bioshock level, so it's kind of ironic that they designed it as an amusement park or I guess a museum where you walk, you know, from one end to the other and circle back around, because that's kind of how this level is designed. I mean, it's much more linear than a typical Bioshock level, but and that adds for some odd placement of vending machines, like that ammo vendor down there that we just saw that was in a very awkward place. There's a safe right there. Just like in the previous game, safes are obnoxious to hack, but we do have some, I almost said augmentations. We're playing too much Deus Ex. But tonics, there's some tonics that can enhance our ability to hack safes as well, just like in the previous game. But the only thing is, there's how they become challenging in this game is there's very tiny. Okay, anyway, before I get too carried away here, now we have to make our choice of what we're going to do with the little sister, and as you know by the title of these videos, I'm going to be evil! Well, that was disturbing. But get used to seeing it, because we're going to see it numerous times before the end of the game.
Euthanasia, son. That's all it was. You have more than enough Adam now.
Now, if we do that as our initial choice, obviously we get more Adam than we would initially, so we would normally, as Sinclair tells us, we would have enough to get incinerate, but not really much else. But because we harvested her, we have enough for some additional upgrades as well. So that's basically how... It's basically the same as the previous game, where it just depends on how quickly you want to acquire your upgrades and how quickly you want to progress your character's abilities. But up here there's kind of a cool scripted spawning of some splicers up here that spawn behind the animatronic heads of the display dummies and everything. But anyway, so I decided to go for the evil run with this run only because there's a version of the ending that I haven't really gotten yet, and I plan on getting that ending. There's several, there's 3 different alternate endings for, one is just a variation on the other for the evil run, but the good ending is just one single good ending in this game. And more on that when we actually get there. That's the whole other game away from here. But I really like the endings in this game actually compared to the previous game, but again, we'll get to that when we get to that. I decided to do the evil run mainly just because, again, to keep in line with my choices that I made with the previous game, and I did an evil run with that one as well. Now, that's not my preferred style. I much prefer to do a good run in both of these games. And I think the good ending of both games is a superior ending overall, because the whole we're gonna take over the world thing just seems a bit preposterous by this game's standard. But anyway, sort of getting back on track with what I was talking about before I got too carried away there about hacking the safes. They just have very tiny bars that you have to hit with the timing there. And the needle moves really fast, so that's why they're considered hard in my opinion. But we have ways to counteract that. Especially when we get the Winter Blast plasmid, just like in the previous game, if we were to freeze something that can be hacked, unlike in the previous game was the flow of the liquid, and this one it's the speed of the needle, so it balances out just like in the previous game. But more on that when we actually acquire the Winter Blast. There's another Power of the People station here. The first 3 Power of the People stations I'm going to get, I'm going to be focusing on upgrading the Rivet Gun just because I want to max it out, because it's going to be really powerful with all the upgrades. We got the damage increase last time. This one we're going to increase the clip size, and as you can see we now have a giant box of ammo there instead of the little cylinder like the one that just dropped out here. So now we can hold a lot more ammo. You would think that the decrease in the glow around the edges of the cylinder would decrease how obvious it is what ammo type we have, but you can still see the lights shining out as the color indication of what type of ammo you're using.
This job will, quote, change history.
And sometimes it can still be confusing, but not very much so. Oh, I think I mentioned this in the first video, but we have a regular melee attack that we can use with every weapon in this game, unlike the previous game. We don't have to switch to the drill to do melee. We can do melee just offhand. But the interesting thing about that is different weapons have different melee strengths. Like some weapons, even like the shotgun, that are really good at close range, might not have a powerful melee. But we'll get to that when we actually get the shotgun. The rivet gun has a good melee though. And obviously the drill has the best melee, and then the machine gun's melee is okay in my opinion. It's not that great, but each weapon has a different, like I said, different melee speed and damage, and different melee animation. So, but you know, whatever gets the job done, and having that that button press melee we can use with any and every weapon is actually really nice in this game. It helps the combat flow a lot better. You wouldn't think it'd make that much of a difference, but again, when you play games like Halo, I guess, where you have a melee you can use at any time, you kind of get used to it, and it's just like you don't like having close quarters encounters like that where you can't do anything aside from just shoot them at point blank, which doesn't seem very logical. And there were many instances like that in the previous game where the only thing to do at close range was to keep shooting them or switch to a shorter range weapon like the shotgun. I like how the weapon sound effects for the enemies shooting at you have been changed, but like I said, the enemies with pistols still use the revolver. They don't use that Luger that we shot ourselves in the head with in the beginning.
Facility is vital for the preservation of secrecy and rapture. But seeing myself.
But right here, there's the switch we were talking about that'll open this door right here, and I think it'll also open that other door that was locked previously that I mentioned in the last video. So we're gonna go hop down here and go get in that room now and get that tonic that's in there.
Asking him what, if anything.
But the weapon sound effects for when the enemies use the pistol, machine gun, and a shotgun, which are the weapons from the previous game, they're not the sound effects from the previous game. They're the sound effects from this game's multiplayer. So here's a tonic we didn't get till much later in the game in the previous game, and that's the Booze Hound. We're gonna get it right away in this game. And we're going to equip it, of course, because I think we initially have 4 gene tonic slots, as you saw there, but we can unlock more with Adam at the Gatherer's Guard machines. But I'm going to go ahead and equip the Booze Hound now. It's not essential, I just think it's kind of nice to be able to utilize your environment and not lose anything from consuming stuff, even if you accidentally consume some alcohol, and it's just a fun thing to have. Like I said, it's not that great of a tonic, and it's not essential to have, but I thought it was nice enough to mention in the previous game, and because we get it so early on here, I'm going to keep it for the rest of the game. But right now, we haven't really gotten that many tonics yet. And again, the game throws tonics at us at a much slower rate in this game than it did in the previous one. In the previous game, we got tonics like left and right in the first level there, the medical pavilion. But they were differentiated into different categories. So if we got more than 4 of them right now, we'd have to make a choice. But we don't have to right now, so. As you can tell from the last video, my voice is getting better, although it's still not perfect. This probably sounded better last night than it did today, actually, unfortunately. But I'm getting there. Also, in the true fashion, this is more so, yet again, another essentially tutorial level, basically on how to explore the levels, how to fight Big Daddies and capture Little Sisters and do gathers, and purchase your upgrades at the Gatherer's Garden machines with your Atom. And it's all very focused in a much more linear way than in the typical Bioshock manner. I rather much preferred how it was done in the previous game, where they sort of just gave the level to you, and they gave you definitely some guidance, and they held some areas off from you until you had the ability to get through them. And I just think that the first level of the previous game was designed better, it sort of felt a little bit more frenetic when you didn't have the luxury of being told what to do, and it was a little bit more nerve-wracking, the fact that you felt sort of lost without many resources, not knowing where to go. But that was just sort of the atmosphere of the previous game, so I think it was kind of important. It was a little bit nerve-wracking the first time through, and progressing through that level felt really sluggish in the first time through the previous game. But after getting all that experience playing it, it's obviously a lot better now. So we have 240 atoms, so now we're at the Gather's Garden machine. We can get all the upgrades, and we still have 80 left, which means next time we see a Gather's Garden machine, we'll still be able to get another plasmid. So now we have the incinerate, which, as you know from the previous game, sets stuff on fire.
With a snap of your fingers.
Yep, that seems perfectly safe. Anyway, these are basically just demonstrations of the incinerator, but we already know how it works, so this is the one where we have to light this guy's cigar, but we can already tell he's charred, so I'm not going to even waste the Eve on that. And there was a random splicer in there, as we saw, so... I am going to use the Eve on melting this ice right here, though, so we can get in here and get some other stuff. There's another Gather's Garden in here, which has some different stuff. I actually did not know about this machine in the first time I went through the game, but now that I do know about it, we're going to get some stuff like Armored Shell, just like we got early on in the previous game, which is an essential tonic in my opinion, and Careful Hacker is also very good too. But again, we have to buy more slots so we can have all those, and go ahead and melt this as well, and we're going to get all this ammo. And we're gonna need it. Trust me. So now we have a decent amount of heavy rivets now, but we're gonna be using a lot of them pretty soon. That's not a good sign. Holy crap. One of those things again. Alrighty, it's time for a mini-boss battle against the Big Sister. And if I didn't explain what the Big Sisters essentially are, they are the adult versions of rescued little sisters from the previous game. And they are ridiculously powerful from all the accumulated atom they've had from over the years. So they're spliced up like mad, and they actually have an objective in mind, and that is to basically mess with, defeat anyone that is messing with the little sisters, and that includes us. So they don't really have any allies per se. I mean, I'm sure some of them do, but I don't think they're with the family per se, and that's not really made clear unless I didn't pay that much attention. But again, we're just gonna throw everything we got at this guy, or girl rather. The heavy rivets, definitely want to use telekinesis to throw all the, because she has telekinesis as well, and she has incinerate. So whenever she throws a rock or shoots fireballs at us, we want to throw them back. Set her on fire, use the electrical to stun her, and keep hitting her with the heavy rivets and the machine gun ammo. If we had any armor piercing ammo, that would be really nice, but I don't think we have any armor piercing ammo yet. Heavy rivets are pretty much our best bet. And they are very, very tough to take down. Tougher than any Big Daddy ever was in the previous game. But for defeating her, we get even more Atom. So that's another way we can acquire Atom in this game, is by successfully defeating them. And you are thrown into an obligatory fight with them every time you deal with every little sister in a level. So if you fail to deal with every little sister in a level, you won't have to fight them, but you also will not get the additional Atom for fighting them and beating them. So that's another thing to consider. It's like, do you want to avoid the challenge of having to fight them by getting less Atom, or do you want to make things more difficult for you later down the road by not having as upgraded of a character? It's up to you, but honestly, I think obviously you're going to deal with all the little sisters and you're going to fight all the big sisters. I don't think there's any other way you're going to do it, really. We just seem very inefficient that way. That's one of the problems I have with Bioshock 2, really, is just that there's no real incentive to not do all the gathers, even though they're really just there for padding. And you just kind of wish, you wish you could just go back to the previous game. Oh, there's the ice there we can melt from the beginning. Don't want to forget about that. But you just wish you could go back to the previous game and just immediately get the end result of your decision right then and there when you defeat the Big Daddy and collect the little sister. You wish you didn't have to do all this patting stuff like do the gathers and fighting the big sisters, but you know, that's just part of Bioshock 2's identity, but it's really one of the reasons why the fans don't like it as much as the previous game. It's still a great game, but it doesn't really improve on the first game like a true sequel should in every aspect. It does improve in some ways, but not in enough to make it a superior game, even gameplay-wise. So we've completed what we've come here to do. It took us forever. It was a relatively simple task that took an entire level to accomplish, but well, either way, we cleared the way. It's no longer frozen, and now we can proceed.
And I'll come out and jump on.
But first we have to get Sinclair out of here first. Oh, hey.
I like to look a man in the eye when I give him my word. You and me, kid. We're going places.
Well, at least he's nice enough to show his face to us, unlike somebody we know from the previous game.
I brought you some golem of Sinclair's, brought here to hold Rapture's arms while he rifles through her pockets. But no.
Ah, hell.
You are aware of your plight. Who, I wonder, would be so cruel to force a mirror on a man with no face?
Lamb was waiting for us. Come out shooting and start the train.
Alright, well, let's defeat these splashers and be moving onward. So, incinerate, what it does is by setting enemies on fire, it basically causes them to be distracted by the fact that they're on fire and deal continuous damage to them. It's pretty self-explanatory. I already explained it in the previous game's LP. I'll probably go over it again in the next video.